Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. We're stuck into it now. We're really right in the thick of things with our team season reviews. And this one is the Warriors, who had an indifferent year. Obviously, we were going to talk a lot about this. And I've got a massive guest with me for this one. It is part of the Roo and Hammer show. And I've got one half of them being good enough to get Roo on board. And mate, I was going to call you Roo. That's how I think how most people know
Fair
you
enough.
as. So I'll stick with Roo for now for you. And depending on how we go, you might get Rob here and there. It might be one of those times where you're in a bit of trouble. But how's things, Roo? How's things, first of all, for the page and stuff this year, but also yourself? And I guess we're a couple of weeks into the off season now. The New Zealand team hasn't been able to play yet either. And how's things for yourself?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Yeah, doing really well. Thanks for having me on. It's great to always come on and chat footy, even if it's not on the best of terms after the season we just had. But we'll get into that. But things have been pretty busy this year. We've had quite a few events on at a lot of the away games, which is the club is always really good with its away supporters functions. So we had quite a few of those this year. Been a big year for Hammer or Mark and myself. It does feel, as you mentioned, it feels a little bit weird not having him here, but he's had a really big last few weeks. Got a lot of extra shifts at work, so he couldn't be here. But I'll do my best to fill in for him. But yeah, we had some great moments this year, regardless of the results. Probably the best moment was when we finally got over to New Zealand for our first true Warriors home game, and that was a moment that neither of us will forget. It was such a great day. So. Plenty going on regardless, and the show's going well, and we got a few more episodes up our sleeve for this year. So we're looking forward to carrying that on up until Christmas.
I'm just writing down now this New Zealand trip we're going to come back to and have a bit of a chat about, because that sounds like there's a bit of talking points in there. And I think that's just a cool thing to sort of talk about and reminisce on and know your experiences, because I think from what we've seen of the crowds, it's been absolutely phenomenal over there. For the Warriors as a whole, so they finished 13th this year, 25 points. So that featured 9 wins, 1 draw, 14 losses, and a points differential of -62. We've openly sort of discussed it off air onto here. I guess it was a season that had so much hype at the start. Myself, I actually had the Warriors top 4, and I remember saying in my preview for them this year that I think they would go bigger and better than last year, which obviously meant a grand final appearance. And unfortunately, it didn't end up being that way. Not the only team that had a bit of a steep sort of decline in a way, but we're focusing on the Warriors today. I want to know your initial thoughts about the season, how you think it went overall, and just dig into your mind. You obviously watch him week in, week out, do all the talking points, etc. for your show. But yeah, what were your initial thoughts?
In a word, disappointing. As you mentioned, so much expectation after making the preliminary final last year. What a massive, amazing season 2023 was. Such a great ride. So many players had career best years in 2023. It was unbelievable, and I think everyone, probably including inside the 4 walls of the club as well, expected that it would just be a continuation of that. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, there's something just wasn't right, and it was evident from the very first game against Cronulla that we watched. And we just struggled for consistency all year. The key players that had career best years in 2023 struggled, particularly with injury. So you think of Sean Johnson, who should have won the Dally M last year. He just couldn't string games together, unfortunately. A lot of injuries and struggled a bit for form. And I think if your timing is just a little bit off, then that makes a big difference. And like this year, at times, it was really, really difficult to watch our attack. There are a number of games that we stormed out to 12, even 16-point leads, and we got run down. And there are a number of games. One game in particular was the Anzac Day game against the Titans, which I think pretty much summed it up. We had all the possession in the world in the final 20 minutes, and we just couldn't score a try. And we started going from side to side, and then we seemed to revert to that barge over tactic. It just seemed like we were kind of out of ideas. When the game plan didn't come off as it did in 2023, it just seemed like we were out of ideas. And our attack was really difficult to watch our attack at times. For, as I just said, like side to side sort of stuff. Trying to put Adam Fanua-Blake over for a try, that seemed to be our best play because, I mean, he got 8 tries. So he would have been up there with the leading try scores. I think Dallin got 14 or 15, which was helped by 3 in the last game. But, we just struggled. And speed. We got exposed out wide for lack of speed a number of times. And the club's already made moves to try and address that as, a couple of players getting released and, looking at making changes there because whatever happened between 23 and 24, there just something wasn't quite right, and there's a number of factors at play. I think the fact that Adam Fanua-Blake had already decided to move on didn't help things, but it must be said he was close to, if not our best player all season. So it's I think to answer your question, a number of things were like factors in the end result of the season. So in a word, disappointing for sure.
Now, this is all about a season review, and I feel like I've got to cheat a little bit and go back a couple of more steps before that. And it starts, I feel like, this season in sort of preseason mode, and some of the big things that happen, you've rightly touched on. Sort of the first point I wanted to make and ask you, this AFB contract saga and how it unfolded and the impact you think it had on, I'm not even going to say the playing group, I'm going to say the club as a whole, because I think it had the possibilities, whether it did or not, to shake the whole place up because of just how, excuse the pun, but how big he is. Obviously, we know how big he is on the field, but I think his presence and stuff around the club and how much of an impact he had last year, I think this one would have really hurt the club.
Oh, look, we were absolutely blindsided by the news. It was end of 2023 when it came through that he wanted to release, and we're just like, are you kidding? We've just had like probably one of the best seasons in the club history, and all of a sudden one of our best players is wanting to leave the club, and the compassionate release is a bit of a double-edged sword for the Warriors. So we've benefited from it at times, but other times it's kind of hurt us a little bit. And obviously Adam's from Sydney, and he wanted to go back and be closer to family. I think his partner, from what I've heard, his partner was not fully settled in New Zealand, or she wanted to go back. So it always comes back to family first. That's something that Cam George has always told us, that they'll never stand in the way of a player who wants to go for family reasons. So look, it's not ideal, and we've seen it happen before at the Warriors when James Maloney signed 12 months out to go to the Roosters back in 2012, and he didn't have the best season there either. But in saying that, Adam was one of our best players on the field. He scored 8 tries. He was an absolute powerhouse. Like, many things went wrong this year, previous season for the Warriors, but the forward pack can't be blamed at all, and he was a big part of that. So, look, it's a funny one, isn't it? It's not something that I particularly like. It has to be disruptive, and there has to be, whether you like it or not, you're sitting next to the guy in the change room, and you're sort of probably thinking in your mind, is he 100% committed? That's probably just like a natural response. But the way he played, I mean, we can't fault his performances on the field. So it was definitely a factor, though. Yeah,
I agree. In terms of, look, you mentioned it. It looked like very early on, I'm not sure if this is the right way to word things, but it looked like the preseason was almost non-existent in a way, because like you've said, it started from game one where it just seemed like things weren't clicking. And from an outsider looking in, and I was lucky enough to be there last year at that game versus the Broncos, that finals game that ended up being last. It was such a good atmosphere. It was amazing. I was sitting there watching that. I know that you lost that game, but I was thinking, I can't wait to see this next year. And I felt like both teams were going to be thereabouts, and it could rewrite the script and go the other way for the Warriors. But I'm not sure, and I don't know if you guys have heard or anything that you can let us in on them, but the preseason this year is a case of they've maybe believed their own hype, that they thought it would come to them naturally, where rewind 12 months earlier, they may have been working their absolute backsides off to get to that season how it was.
Yeah, it could well have been. Like it was an unprecedented season in 2023, and these guys have gone from playing second fiddle to the All Blacks over there in New Zealand to all of a sudden being on par, and the whole up the wires movement just took on life of its own, and suddenly everyone knows these guys. Yeah, I mean, that could very well have been the case, and look, it just felt like we were building towards something. And I'll just go back to a point. For us diehard, long-suffering Warriors fans who have been there since day one, this is the great fall-off is nothing new. So you go back to 2003, we played a prelim final. 2004, we had our worst season in history. 2008, we again played a prelim. 2009 was a write-off of a season. Go to 2011, we were in the grand final. All three teams in the grand final. 2012, a disaster. And so 2018, we made the finals for the first time in 7 years. And then the whole Sean Johnson fiasco went down, and 2019 happened. So, yeah, for us,
Parramatta in a way. It's what we do as well.
There's a few teams that have experienced that, but yeah, I mean, for us Warriors fans, we should be used to this kind of thing. But yeah, for whatever reason, 2023 just felt like that won't happen again. We're building onto bigger and better things. And yeah, like as you mentioned, like the players had their profiles elevated, and it would have played a part for sure.
It's weird. I want to ask you, Andrew Webster, obviously an incredible first year as coach. We hear about players suffering from second year syndromes in a way. Do you think there was part of that for Andrew Webster, or do you think it's got sort of nothing to do with him, and this one's more in the playing group this year?
Yeah. After a dream debut season as a head coach, he sort of came crashing back down to reality a little bit. It'll be a massive learning curve for him. Absolutely. I mean, from watching the performances on the field, it looks like we went with the same kind of game plan. We were looking to build off that, continue that. And as I mentioned before, when you got players that aren't in the same form that they were in last year, the timing's a little bit off. You've got players, you got a revolving door of players with injuries. Like we had a lot of injuries, but all teams have to cope with injuries. But we had it to sort of key players like SJ, Tohu Harris, and these guys that are so key to our game. And it kind of felt like we were sticking to the game plan from last year, kicking to the corner, getting that kick chase there, and like it's not particularly kicking to score, but kicking for field position. So kicking the corner, keep them down there, backing our defense. But for whatever that just didn't work this year. Our discipline was a bit off as well, giving away cheap penalties and poor handling, and all that contributed to it. But it kind of, I think, a little bit felt like we were out of ideas when the game plan didn't come off. It's like we got a little bit lost, and that's when the side-to-side sort of stuff happened, and trying to score from barge overs, which you can't really do in the NRL these days. So, yeah, if I had sort of one criticism, well, that's it.
It's a funny one because look, if I'm going to be blunt about it, I think next year is a huge year for Andrew Webster as a head coach, because what I mean by that, I think last year caught most people by surprise, because I don't think he was ever really on the radar for most teams out there. And then when the Warriors announced that signing for him as head coach, I think it caught most people by surprise, thinking, oh, hang on a second, what have they done here? And then obviously that was proved absolutely the correct decision as the season went on, and obviously into the final series. And then everyone was thinking, here we go. This year is going to be, this is where we go. Like, all right, no worries. We've got the Panthers culture type thing. We've got all that down pat. Here we go. And to then have the season that we've just had, it's probably left. I've heard people talk. They're a bit confused where it sits with Andrew Webster and all. That's why I'm saying next year, in my opinion, is absolutely huge for him, because he's either going to get things right again and it's going to be like, all right, this guy is a head coach. Like, he's ready to do a 15, 20-year sort of career in this. Or it's going to be okay, maybe that season was a flash in the pan and maybe the Warriors have sort of made the mistake here by signing him as the head coach.
Yeah, mate. Who'd want to be a head coach in the NRL? It's a cutthroat industry, isn't it? You have one bad season and you're under pressure. And yeah, as you rightly touched on, Webby's going to go into season 2025 under pressure, regardless of what they say at the club. Like, you see Kevin Walters getting sacked a season out from making a grand final. And yeah, I mean, we're a club that historically has underachieved, and we've been starved of success, particularly recently. We got a bit of a taste of it last year, and yeah, like we had the fall away this year, and as you touched on, he'll be under huge pressure. And yeah, if things don't turn around, like we how many coaches have we had? Honestly, I think Sean Johnson was saying it the other day. When in his time at the club, he's had about 10 different coaches. So yeah, we're a club that doesn't mind moving on a coach, but like, yeah, it's just that Webby seemed to fit in perfectly. He'd been at the club before as an assistant coach back in 2015 and 16, so he kind of understood the place. He understood the culture. It seemed to be like it just fit like a glove. But yeah, at the end of the day, results do all the talking, and that's all that matters. So yeah, we're going to need a big start to the year next year for sure.
And it's a funny, not to get into depth with it for this podcast, but it'd be interesting to know who's sort of the next man up in terms of a head coach role for the Warriors. Because I think part of that reason why there has been so many coaches, like, in a way, the Warriors need some stability there, I think, from the top sort of down. And it seems like you got that from someone like Cameron George. He's got the stability there now, and he's got things working out the way it is. I remember having a chat to him in Magic Ground, and he's such a good bloke. He's obviously someone you want leading a club and has the right fundamentals. It looks like from out wide, it's doing some great things for the club. But yeah, it's an interesting one, because I don't know if there's many out there that want to go and live in like New Zealand, say, for that long-term sort of success and what they need. So it's like, if they do get rid of Webster, who's next? Would it be like a Stacey Jones now? Is it your time to come in as coach, and you'll have a taste of the international scene this year? And if it happens next year, who knows? But like, that's the sort of thing where, in a way, I understand the frustrations, and it's like, oh, what's happening here? And that sort of not sure about Andrew Webster in a way, but at the same time, it's like, but you just need that stability. You need that someone to come in there and really establish himself as a coach and his platforms, his juniors that are coming through, the whole thing. So, and talking about juniors, it's funny because there's these problems this year. I feel like this year's, as you said, and rightly so, it's been one of those weird years for the Warriors where the hype off the field was always there. Like, the fans, every time you spoke to fans, you saw the Waz Nation, you saw all that happening. Up the Waz, it was beautiful once again. We'll talk about the crowds down the track, but one thing that also really excited me this year, from a season that was pure dog shit, basically, it was just the fact that the kids, and I felt like some of your strongest performances this year was when you had a more inexperienced lineup, and that can be concerning, obviously, for this year as it was happening, going, what is going on here? But for the future, that's got to be really exciting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That was common on the silver linings, as you sort of mentioned there this year, is getting a few of those young guys in there that have been around the scene for a couple of years. So we had Jacob Laban make his debut, Leka Halasima, Zion Mayu, Mawala Graham Taufa, who actually wasn't even in the top 30, but we had that many injuries. He came in and did a really good job at centre there. One guy, Ali Leatawa, though, he is the future of the Warriors. Like, if I could pinpoint one moment from last season, it would be his run against the Sharks in the final game, where he just like ran over about 2 or 3 guys, and like that. This kid looks like he's got all the X factor that we've been waiting for. Like we've struggled. Centre has been a position that we've struggled in for a long time. I mean, we brought RTS back to play centre, and he had his struggles there as well. But Ali Lautau looks like an absolute superstar. Had a few injuries, but when he was on the field, mate, this kid looks like he's got the goods. The Leka Halasima, when he made his debut against the Bulldogs in that Golden Point game and almost scored a try from halfway. Another fantastic moment in the season from a young fella. And like this kid is, you started thinking about Sonny Bill when he made his debut, and just in terms of immediate impact. The future's definitely bright. We've had a lot of success in the lower grades as well. And you got to remember, we're only just sort of getting back on track there after all the COVID years. I mean, the team was here from 2020 through to 2022. And you touched on Stacey Jones potentially being the next head coach. Well, we had a fair few chats with Stace when he was here in 22, because the obviously team based in Redcliffe and we're close by, so we were there most weeks. And he's a bit of a reluctant coach, head coach Stacey. He probably doesn't mind doing the Kiwis gig because it's just short term, but I don't think he would be putting up his hand anytime soon for the Warriors job. However, we're all kind of silently hoping that another club legend, Ivan Cleary, might get sick of winning premierships at Penrith, and he might come back in we don't care what capacity, a director of football or something like that. But that would be the dream if we had to make any coaching changes. But yeah.
Well, you've got his son coming over, so very excited to see how Jed
coach
goes.
His other son to a premiership. Yeah, you've had Coach Nathan before. Let's get Jed over the line.
There's got to be some sort of history in that, so that someone please get back to it. Let us know what the history is with father-son combo times 2. So we'll see what happens. See what happens there. Sort of mentioning with that the kids and stuff. I also really enjoyed Tamari Martin's season. I really thought that he sort of came on, especially whenever SJ wasn't there. It felt like he really stood up really well, and just all of a sudden when SJ wasn't there, was able to breathe a little bit in a way, and just was able to control things, and that's what suited him down to a T. So we'll talk to us about Tamari Martin's season and where you thought and how you thought the season was.
Yeah, he's a real cool, calm character, Tamari Martin. I mean, he's not a flashy player, but he's definitely solid. And he had some outstanding games. I mean, he seems to cop a little bit of flack because he's not that flashy player, like an SJ or someone like that. Doesn't have the footwork and doesn't have like to be fair, he probably doesn't have the longest kicking game either. But he's shown that he does have a sort of tactical short kicking game that he used to good effect in that mid-season period. I think Magic Round was close to the best game of his career. He was outstanding there, and then there was a few other games after that when we played the Dolphins and the Cowboys where he was outstanding. His short passing was on point, and he is going to need to have a big year next year. With no SJ, we tend to think that Tamari Martin is going to be the man, unless Jet Cleary wants to hit the ground running and come straight into first grade. But I don't think he's quite ready yet. I think he's only about 19. But
never doubted Cleary. Who knows these days?
No, that's it. Especially with the Warriors, Cleary DNA is strong at the Warriors. So, he had some really good games. Proved a lot of people wrong. Let's hope again that he can build on this season in 2025.
This next sort of talking point I want to talk about, I have a feeling we're going to talk about this for a little bit here, because there's two parts to this player that I want to talk about. The first part, I'm going to go on the more negative side of things, unfortunately. I want to finish on a positive. I like to do that. Get out of the way, the negative side. And this is the guy that we've mentioned a couple of times already, Sean Johnson. And I'm going to go out there and say it now. I absolutely hated watching him play this year because it hurt. It actually hurt me in a way, because I'll go as far, and I'm more than happy for you to pull me up on this, but if I'm being too harsh, but I didn't think he was a step behind a lot of the time. I actually thought he was 2 steps behind a lot of the time when he was playing. It would just seem like whatever he was carrying from pretty much preseason, it almost looked like he just wasn't able to get over, whether he tried to push his body knowing this is going to probably be his last year. He wanted to get the Warriors and try that extra hard to get the Warriors to those finals positions and where they were last year. But it just never worked this year, and it was just extremely painful. And I'm not even a Warriors fan to sit there watching the TV and just see him like he just looked like he was struggling both sort of on the field and sort of like a mental side of the game as well.
Yeah. Look, I have to agree with that. He really was off. And when he's off, so is the attack. And that's it. That's it in a nutshell, really, I think. It was evident from round one. He just wasn't taking on the line. He was just putting in kicks. We watched round one with Big Tooks, and he came up to us and he was like, what's up with Sean Johnson? And it's like, yeah, he's just doesn't seem himself. And it's round one. You go, it's just round one. We'll write that off and see how he goes for the rest of the year. But yeah, he just wasn't going deep into the line like he was in 2023. The timing was a bit off. Like they were going for that slingshot play out to Dallin's wing all the time, where we scored about 1 billion tries last year. But yeah, just wasn't happening, and he just looked tentative, like really tentative. It was that Achilles injury again. I think he had like a pec injury as well, and he's playing busted for the whole year. And as you rightly pointed out, it was like awkward to watch at times because he almost felt like a passenger out there. But I think once he made the decision that was going to be it, that he was going to retire, I think it might have taken a little bit of the pressure off him. And he had the game of his life, the final round against Cronulla, which was great to see, and such a fitting send off for a club legend. Throwing that your final play in the NRL was that try assist. It was brilliant. Like it just warmed all our hearts. And the funny part was we kind of came away from that feeling like good and all warm and fuzzy from the season because you just had that last little sugar high. And then we do something like this and we go back and look at the rest of the body of work and you think, it was a little bit grim. But it was. I won't say it was a sad way for him to go out because I think he got a really good send off. That final game at Mount Smart against the Bulldogs. I mean, we all had tears in our eyes there. Fitting farewell for a club legend. Couldn't get the win that night. Did get the win at the end, which was one of those, just felt like it was meant to be. And against his old club as well. Spent 3 years at Cronulla. So, look, all us Warriors fans love SJ, even if they, you had a little bit personally, I had a little bit of resentment when he left the club for Cronulla, but that's all forgiven when he comes back. And it was like mixed emotions, I think. It
was a different way. I think the other point was it felt like every time he played, it sort of impacted the 5'8" quite a lot, and it felt like in a way whenever he wasn't there, that whoever that was named at the 6 sort of excelled and had a much better sort of game. It was just it was such a weird sort of year for SJ in the halves. I felt like for the Warriors, and I guess on the good side of things and the positive, what I want to talk about with SJ, obviously his career and how he got to end that final game. It was sort of a story. It's when you sort of sit back and think, hey, someone's writing these because this is ridiculous. This is a script that it was amazing. And I'm not even a Warriors fan, and it brings I don't know why SJ has done this for me, but he's brought a tear on my eye a couple of times because it's felt like I've watched his whole career play out. Like I visibly remember his first game all the way through to his last game. And there's not many players that I feel like I've been able to say I've actually been able to do that for. So, and it feels like in a way for me, he's changed like a whole age range of players who now play the game, whether it's a touch football or a rugby league sense. And he's changed the style. Like it felt like where our game got to a point where it was so structured. Along came Sean Johnson to say, hang on a second, we're still playing rugby league here and let us play a bit. And it felt like it was just a breath of fresh air. And just to credit to him, and you can talk obviously much more about him, but I just want to say thank you to him for letting us watch him. What a star he's been and how good it has been. We get to watch him 1 or 2 more times now with the New Zealand side, which is such a cool way for him to go. And Fingers crossed it goes well for him. But
yeah.
let us know, Roo. You obviously, with your page and that, you followed him very, very closely. No doubt you probably had a couple of chats with him at some point in time as well. But what a bloke, what a guy to have at your club. And I guess it is sad to see him leave, but it's also cool to say we witnessed that.
Yeah, look, he's a player that's kind of inspired a generation, particularly in New Zealand, but also over here. I mean, you had Benji Marshall a little bit before him, but he sort of came and he had that flashy when he burst onto the scene in 2011. I'll never forget it because I was there at Mount Smart Stadium to see his first try in first grade back in 2011, and just the speed and acceleration that he had back then was unbelievable. He sort of came into the back end of that 2011 season and carried us all the way to the grand final. And I was at the game against the Broncos at Suncorp that year where he scored like one of those freakish tries he did where he stepped the whole team. And it was just such an amazing try, like for a guy that's only played like 6 or 7 first grade games to burst onto the scene and produce that. But when I think about Shaun Johnson and his greatest moment, for me, it's the 2011 prelim against the Storm where he did that sort of that move where he left Cooper Cronk sort of spinning in circles and put Lewis Brown over in the corner. That was just like euphoric. That was just such an amazing moment. It got us into the grand final. And he sort of continued that on for a number of years. He had the sidestep. He had the flashy. He scored the tries. He kicked field goals. He was just that flashy player. And I think over time he got a few injuries, a few leg injuries that kind of reduced his ability to produce those highlight reel moments. And then I think he had to go back and sort of readjust his game, much like Benji Marshall did, and he became a little bit more of a game manager, and he used a bit more of his footy smarts rather than just the highlight reel stuff. And I mean, we probably had 2 different Shaun Johnsons. So the Shaun Johnson that we had up until he left for Cronulla, and I think at the Sharks he learned a little bit more about game management. He came back. And that 2023 season, there was still a little bit of that flashy stuff there, but the rest of it was just all about his select passing and his kicking game. And it's like, I remember me and Mark were saying, we finally got the version of Shaun Johnson that we really needed in 2023. I mean, the highlight reel stuff is fantastic, but his full array of skills, I think we saw in 2023. He's going to be sorely missed. He's Warriors through and through. You can see how much the club means to him as well, with his send-off. And when he came back to the club in 2022, that was just an amazing moment. And you sort of feel like that was just meant to be. He was always going to finish his career at the Warriors. And one of the greatest Warriors of all time, one of my favorite players of all time. And hopefully he can do a few good things for the Kiwis. Go out there and really continue bottle some of that energy that he had in that final Sharks game, and really go out on a high.
Yeah, I think it's a credit to him, as you rightly pointed out, how he was able to adapt and change his game to the modern times and to his body. I think that's a huge credit to him and how smart he is of a footy player. I think a lot of people underestimate that for Shaun Johnson. They always see the flashy stuff and, how good is he? How much of a freak is he? But he's a very, very smart footy player. You can clearly see a lot of the times where he does that freaky stuff when he was a bit younger, there was still some footy smarts about that and picking the right times to do it, the right person and the like. He's an incredible footy player. One more player I want to give a huge shout out to this year, and I think he has been absolutely phenomenal, is Mitch Barnett. He has been a monster. And I know Fanua Blake gets a lot of the raps, and rightly so, for his tries, and that's incredible try tally for a prop forward. But Mitch Barnett, he had to play a little bit in between, mainly prop, but he had to play a little bit on the edges as well at times. But even though the team really struggled this year for a majority of the year, he was constantly, in my opinion, one of the game's elite forwards on basically a regular basis. And it must fill you with some pride and joy and some confidence moving forward, knowing that you've got him at the moment in your ranks, and he looks like he's just getting to another level.
Yeah, he seems to be really enjoying his footy at the moment. He took his took his game to another level this year. Representative honours, played game 3 for New South Wales and did not look out of place one bit. And he made his Kangaroos debut last Friday night. I think one of the best things about Mitch has been, I think the leadership really helped his game. A couple of times he filled in as captain, and it seemed to take his game to another level, something that really agrees with him. And I think if we're looking for a new skipper next year, say Tohu Harris doesn't want to do it again, like, look no further than this guy. He was outstanding. And let's not forget, last year it looked like his career may have been over. He had that really bad neck injury, and there was talk that he may not get back on the field. But mate, what a fantastic season. Just like, and he's re-signed to the club for another few years, so he obviously enjoys being in New Zealand, which is a plus for an Aussie player coming over. So that's really exciting for the future. But yeah, that's the big thing that stuck with me was his leadership on the field, and we really missed it when he wasn't there, when he was away on Origin camp, especially when him and Capewell were not in the team. We really missed that leadership.
Yeah, I think he was absolutely huge. Honestly, I feel like these next talking points was probably the dark point of the season. Actually, really, really curious to hear your thoughts around this and what happened. It was the round 16 loss to the Titans, 66 points to 6. And I didn't think in the modern game of rugby league we would see scorelines like this ever again. And here we are. And honestly, it was the definition of, I remember watching it thinking, did this team actually get off the plane? Like, did this team actually want to turn up to play some football, or had they actually got to the Gold Coast and gone, let's go out tonight, who cares about the footy match? And it was crazy. It was like, and it's a game where they get so many fans. They far outweigh the Titans fans. It's effectively another home game easily. And to have that performance, when I remember going back to it, it was sort of one of those games where to have any hope of finals football, you basically win this game to make sure you start to get on that run. And that was dished up.
Yeah. Mate, we were front and center for that one. Mark came up from Sydney for that game, and it's, as you said, it's always a big event on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
The club always does a pre and post match function. So yeah, I mean,
the post match one would have been interesting.
Brutal. It was interesting. I think only about half of the people that signed up to go turned up. I think everyone just walked straight out the door and went home. But to the players' credit, they came and they signed autographs and put on a brave face. Like, you got to be hurting after copping a 60-point hammering. And the most disturbing part about that was, at the time, the Titans were actually last on the table. They were actually last, and we're like, we sort of said, if we're going to be any chance of making finals this year, these are the games we have to win. We had a pretty strong record on the Gold Coast, probably not the last few years, but prior to that, we always used to win against the Titans. And like you said, huge following with Warriors fan base in Southeast Queensland. And mate, yeah, you're absolutely right. We're just sitting there going, did this team even get off the bus? The Titans. It was probably more the tries that they were scoring. They were so soft, straight through the middle, like hookers running straight through our forward pack. Some guys, like usually reliable defenders, falling off tackles. And again, when we did get the ball in our hands, it just was clunky, disjointed, and did not look like scoring at all. And yeah, dark day in club history. And I mean, up until that point, we hadn't really been flogged. We hadn't really been blown away like that. But that was just, that just came out of the blue, and we're just like, the hell was that?
Yeah. It was a super strange one. And like, as I said, just the time of it and what was sort of at stake for it, like, it almost, in a way, it's the performance that typifies the season, I guess. And when you look back on it, you're just like, well, I guess if someone just tells me this result, please, before telling me wherever we finished, I'll let you know sort of how the season goes. So I wanted to ask about, you mentioned just then, I want to go in a bit deeper with you. I feel like as a whole, the season, we've established it wasn't a great season at all. And that's probably how we sum up. And I think from what we've spoken about, there's not too much more to sort of dig into. And it's a pretty straightforward season, actually, when I look at the Warriors season and when we sort of have to talk about it. But I know what you guys do and how big the club is in terms of getting the supporters and that behind it and really having that family sort of vibe and culture at the club, which I applaud everyone for. I know Cameron George is a huge advocate for that sort of stuff and really gets everyone on board. And I don't know what the relationship's like with yourselves and him and other creators of the Warriors, if there is a great sort of family sort of build up there as well to help spread messages and stuff. It seems like that there might be. But first of all, huge credit to the fans. I think it was every game was sold out this year, so at home. And as I said, I think most away games as well, and you will probably at most of them, as you sort of said, you would have noticed an increase in Warriors fans as probably as well. So talk to us just about how you've seen that WARS movement, I guess, increase and rise this year, and how proud it actually makes you being a creator, being in that space. And you'd probably notice an increased activity on the pages, DMs and stuff, and just people getting into it.
Yeah, look, it's like Mark and I have been Warriors fans since day one. So we've been through some dark days, and we've been through some times where no one wanted to know the Warriors. People wanted the Warriors kicked out of the competition. You know, there would be games at Mount Smart, you know, where you'd get maybe it'd be bucketing down with rain. You get maybe a couple of thousand people there. To go from that to this season where every single Warriors home game was sold out, that is amazing. It really is amazing. As I said before, a country that's rugby mad. The All Blacks are number one over in New Zealand. Well, I think carrying on from 2023, the Warriors were right up there, and at times may have even eclipsed the All Blacks in terms of popularity. It was WARS fever at the end of the season and carrying into. And I think the club just really rode on that wave of success. Cam George did a fantastic job, and I want to give him a shout out because he's always been fantastic to us for what we do as Roo and Hammer. Always been really giving of his time and come on for a chat and really looked after us when we finally got over there for a game. Gave us a bit of a tour and that sort of thing. And the other like Glenn Harris, Glenn Critchley, all the other guys at the club that just do such an amazing job. With fan interaction with the memberships team as well. I mean, like we really benefited from it being away fans. They did functions in Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sydney as well. So that was massive. The away support at some of those games, outweighed. Like at the Gold Coast, I think the Bulldogs game in Sydney had a massive Warriors crowd as well. And another guy I got to give a shout out to is Richie Morgan from Warrior Nation. He's the guy that heads and has done for years the away supporters group Warrior Nation over here in Australia, and he works tirelessly to get everyone on board. And like you can even hear him shouting out at the games. He's that parochial, and from that point of view, it was like off the field, it was a massively successful season, and I just hope that all that support that we have gathered over the past couple of years will continue, and they stick with the team for at least one more year. See, again, it all depends on how we start 2025, but like that's been one of the success stories of the season, I think. And I think it was a record. The first time that any home team has sold out all of their games. That includes a game in Christchurch as well, and Magic Round was a home game as well. Yeah,
it's just incredible, and I applaud everyone out there who is a supporter, and obviously those New Zealand viewers. I have a few mates that have family over in New Zealand, and that they get on board. And I didn't even know some of them listen to my podcast. So shout out to you guys who are listening, and I really love what you guys are doing out there. Talk to us about that New Zealand trip that you got to have. It sounds like it was a absolute thriller, something to really note down the memory bank that you'll never forget. And just let us in a bit and how that trip was.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, mate. It was absolutely fantastic. Now, I've got to take you back a few years when we first started Roo and Hammer, back in midway through COVID in 2020. Mark and I had never actually met in person. We just knew each other through like a Warriors supporter group. And back then there weren't too many Warriors-related podcasts, and we were just chatting on the phone. We'd FaceTime each other, during lockdown, that sort of thing. And and through that, we sort of become best mates. And we just started Roo and Hammer from scratch. We didn't even know how to do it. We didn't know what we were doing, but we just started it, and it's sort of grown to what it is today. And a big thanks to everyone who's supported us along the way, and people who've watched us, and big thanks to the club as well. And one thing that we always wanted to do when we first started was go to an actual Warriors home game in New Zealand. I mean, we went to a few home games in the Central Coast and then at Redcliffe, but it wasn't the same thing, like it wasn't a true home game. I've been lucky enough to go to quite a few games over in Mount Smart. I've been over there probably about five or six games before, but Mark had never been, and we just said straight away that's got to be a goal for us to get back to New Zealand. The team finally got back there for the first full season in 2023. And we sort of, it was 2023 was a little bit of a difficult year. Unfortunately, Mark's father passed away. So 2024, we said, okay, we are going to go to New Zealand and we're going to bring back Mark's father's ashes, and he was going to bring them back to, to the marae. His father is Māori. So that was something he had already planned to do. And we said, look, let's work it out around a game so we can both go. And I'm lucky. I have my sister-in-law lives in Auckland, so I went over and was able to visit her and stay there. And she doesn't live too far away from the stadium either, so it worked out really well. We got over there, and when we got off the plane, it's just like this just feels like a long time coming. And the game day experience was against the Dolphins midway through the year. And yeah, we got out to the Mount Smart. I keep calling it Mount Smart. With Go Media Stadium these days. It'll always be Mount Smart Stadium to me.
Yeah.
Got out there nice and early, and went out to the bar out the back. If you ever get over to Go Media Stadium, go to Lily World Bar out the back of the stadium. It's where everyone hangs out before the game. And then we went round and we had Cam George gave us a tour of the facilities. We're very lucky and very blessed. We're walking through the change rooms and the gym, and we got to see everything and walk through the tunnel. Not the main tunnel, not the the one where game one where they ran out with a fire. Unfortunately, they don't run out there anymore. But we came through the grandstand tunnel. Yeah, it was just amazing. The club just looked after us. We appreciated that so much, and we got to watch the game. And that's the other thing I should mention. The Warriors didn't actually win too many games at Mount Smart Stadium this year. I think they only had 4 wins. And luckily enough, we were there to see them get that win over the Dolphins. It was like you mentioned earlier, it was a game where we had so many players out, and we had a second, probably third string team lining up, and we got the job done. It was just a really gutsy win. And it just felt like it was meant to be, and getting to sing the team song at the ground, the two of us, was just an awesome moment. And it was, like I said, something we've been wanting to do for so long, and it was a fantastic experience. Our vlog is on our YouTube channel if you want to see a bit of the behind the scenes stuff there, and there's some stuff on our TikTok as well, belting out the team song. It was a real highlight in what was otherwise a pretty tough year.
Honestly, that sounds incredible, and hope, but for Mark's sake, he got to enjoy it and get out of it what he wanted to get out of it as well. That's very special. And
he certainly did.
I had goosebumps at the start of that. That's an incredible sort of moment that I'm glad. And again, that just shows the interactions and the relationship you build up with the club there and Cameron George. And hopefully he listens to this, but a huge credit to him for doing what he does with you guys and
can't thank him enough.
And Warriors fans. One final football question for you before we get into some of these rapid fire questions.
Yep.
I want to know, this fullback debate seems to heat up more and more at the moment. And who do you think? Look, Charles Nicoll-Klokstad, I think, was fantastic last year. I think he really got impacted by the team this year, which hasn't really helped him in this debate, because then everyone remembers Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and how good he is and what he can do. But then there's also the youngster, Tuapiki, is quickly in the mix in that now as well, because every time he has been able to play in that one jersey, for mine, he's lit it up. He's been almost better than both of those players anytime he's got that chance. What do you do? What do you do?
Yeah, we've got a team full of fullbacks, haven't we? Look, I'm going to go like Tane Tuapiki. I got massive raps on this kid. I remember hearing I think he was the Queensland Cup Player of the Year. We signed him from the Burleigh Bears. He came over on a train and trial deal. Was quickly upgraded, and whenever he filled in 2023, he was fantastic. He was solid, did the job, and we used to call him the half break king because he would always, every time he got the ball, it looks like he'd make a half break without fully breaking the line. Look, this year he got limited opportunities, but when he did, like you said, he lit it up. He was fantastic. Magic round was one of the greatest individual games from a Warriors player I think I've ever seen. He was outstanding. Scored the match-winning try and kicked the match-winning goal from the sideline. And pulled off a couple of try-saving tackles. He's not the biggest guy going around, but I think the smaller fullback is coming back into fashion at the moment. Like, he reminds me a lot of Keanu Kinney from the Titans, that style fullback. He's got playmaking attributes as well. He's got a good passing game, Tane. And in New South Wales Cup, I believe he was actually the first choice general play kicker from fullback. So in a year where we were anticipating with Sean Johnson gone, who had the best kicking game in the club, to looking at guys like Luke Metcalf and Tomato Martin, who don't have the strongest kicking games or long kicking games, a guy like Tane could be invaluable there at fullback. An extra playmaking option. With all due respect to RTS and Chancellor Klukstad, they're very similar players. They're all hard. They're meter eater players. They'll get you in a good position, but they're not so much that player that can chime into the back line and be that third playmaker. And I think we got the balance of the team right in that final game against the Sharks. So we saw Tane at fullback. Roger was actually out concussed, thanks to Stephen Crichton. But we had Chance in the centres, and I think Chance had a really good game at centre. So I think that the balance was right there, and I would have Roger on the wing. With Montoya moving on now, who knows whether that's being set up for Roger to come in and replace him. He can do a similar job that he does at fullback. He can run the ball back with the gusto. He can still do all that. But I just personally, from a season where we really struggled to score points and struggled with cohesion in attack, I think we looked best when Tane was there at fullback. So he's my choice.
I'm glad I'm not a coach, because that is a headache and a half. Yes, it's a good headache, but it is a headache. It's going to be a big off season, I feel like, for all three of those players, who I have no doubt would love to have that one jersey, but will also be very much team players and play wherever they end up being put. But that one jersey would be something special for all three of those players in the back of their minds. Rapid fire questions with yourself. So first one, what was your key moment of the year?
Key moment where I think the Golden Point lost the Bulldogs. We came so close to winning that game. We were really brave, but ultimately we had our hearts broken and we never really recovered from that. And I think that was where the season ended for me. But in terms of good moments, it's got to be Magic Round and the week after against the Dolphins. Those are my favourite moments. Yeah,
I was there watching that Magic Round, and it felt like awesome. The whole crowd was Warriors fans as well. It was an so awesome experience. It was an awesome game. For mine, I had my key moment this year, and we've already spoken about it. It's more so because it's just a huge WTF. That Titans loss, I just can't believe it, because of the time frame. Sort of, it was, as I said, it felt like that was the game where all right, we win it, we get to go on a bit of a run here, and just the way they turned up, and as I said again, like in front of basically a home crowd, it was a huge what is happening here. So very.
Yep.
Yeah, very disappointed. Sorry to bring it up so many times on this podcast.
It's all good. I'm in therapy.
Your surprise packet of the year.
We've already spoken about him. Tane Tuapiki, I think, took his game to another level, and when he had the opportunities, like he surprised us. Yeah, that Magic Round game, as I said before, was a real breakout performance for him. So I would have him, even though we knew he was a solid player. I think he took his game to another level, and that's why I'm saying he's put his hand up and is demanding selection next season.
I was very close to naming him as well, so I'm glad I didn't, just because we could have something different. For mine, and again, we're speaking about this guy. I've actually gone Mitch Barnett, because
Yep.
the way I'll word it is because when you're discarded by the Newcastle Knights and look, there's sort of a reject Newcastle Knights player, it's not the greatest thing to have on your resume, but he has come back massively, in my opinion. And as I've already said, I can't talk about him high enough. And he's, for mine, one of the premium elite forwards in this competition. In the season he had from where he was 12 months ago, he's like, that was huge. What a season indeed.
Oh,
So for mine, it's Mitch Barnett for surprise packet of the year. Who needs a big 2025?
mate, we've spoken about him. Andrew Webster.
Yes.
Mate, he really does need a big 2025 for all the reasons that we mentioned earlier on.
Yeah.
Could find himself under pressure. In terms of players, I had three players that need a big 2025. RTS, we'll give him a leave pass for last season, coming back from rugby. I mean, the game's a lot different from when he was here in 2021, but he's back on fairly big money. So yeah, he needs a big season next year. Chancellor Kluckster, again, who knows where he's going to play, but he needs a big season coming off contract as well. Tamade Martin, no Sean Johnson, all the pressure on the number 7, whether it's him or Luke Metcalf. But I feel like everyone will be looking to Tamade Martin to be that cool, steady influence there in the halves.
I had yeah, no, dude, mate, it's your show basically. You do as you please. I locked in RTS purely of sort of what you said. In a way, I did give him a leave pass this year, but I also thought it was a bit of a disappointing comeback for this year, and just the emotions behind it. And as we discussed it, how good it felt like the Warrior season was going to be, it just was in a way just a bit of a. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully seeing him have that another full preseason under his belt. I know he's away with Samoa at the moment, but he'll come back after a bit of a break, get into training. Whether he's given the one, whether he's given the wing or the center position, we'll see.
Wherever.
But yeah, hopefully, I think he's in for a huge year next year. Last one, who was your player of the year?
Oh, look, it was a close one because Adam Fanua-Blake, despite all the negativity surrounding him, he had a monster season. And he will be sorely missed, and you cannot replace that guy. There is no other player in the game that can do what he does. Having said that, another guy that we've mentioned plenty of times tonight, Mitch Barnett, he got the Simon Mannering medal for the club, for the player of the year, richly deserved. As I said, the leadership really seemed to agree with him. He took his game to another level. He even scored a few tries himself. As you said, Newcastle discard, came to play under Nathan Brown, and things changed very quickly. But he was absolutely outstanding. And as I said before, I would have no qualms about him being handed the captaincy for 2025.
It shows you how good of how big his rise has been. That's incredible to think. Even 2 years ago, to be saying that sentence about Mitch Barnett, you'd probably be called crazy, and someone would personally drive
you for Australia, New South Wales. Yeah.
100%. But I thoroughly think, and I hate putting the same person in a couple of these answers, but I'm breaking my own rule and I'm doing it. So I've gone Mitch Barnett as well. I think what a year. I've already said way too much about him, but he deserves everything, and so keen to see how he backs up next year. And if he does get a chance to have that C next to his name, which would be huge. Roo, let the viewers or the listeners know where they can find Roo and Hammer. Obviously, I've watched you guys, and I feel like we sort of started around the same sort of time, I feel like, or similar. And it's been great to watch your rise as well and watch how good you guys are going with things and the interaction with the crowds and being at events and stuff like that. It's awesome. But let people know where they can find you so they can go over and give you some love if they haven't already.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks for those kind words. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. Jump onto our YouTube channel. You can go back and look at all the chats that we've done with current and ex-players. That's really what we're most passionate about. Myself and Mark, as we said, we're day one fans since 1995, and we love nothing more than chatting to our past legends and like honouring the past. Despite our lack of success, we do have a fairly rich history. So, go back there, look at our player chats. You can see all our lives, and and our game day experiences, as you mentioned, that's something that we've really enjoyed doing. Chatting to all the fans. We've got so many great friendships with past and present players and other supporters, and it's been a dream come true. It really has. From where we started from. So check us out on all the social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and we're also on TikTok as well. So yeah.
There you go, guys. Basically, all the social medias. Type in Roo and Hammer.
Yeah.
You will find them there, and then the YouTube podcast, all of it. Go on, make sure you give them some love, especially if you're a Warriors fan, but not even that, just a general rugby league fan. Hope you've enjoyed it. As always, make sure you go ahead to tell us what you think in the comments below, or even give us a message, even Roo and Hammer as well. Let us even have a bit more of a chat about things. And if there was a point we may have missed, I'm happy to put up a post or something like that as well. So thank you once again, Roo. Hammer, thinking of you, mate. Hopefully you're not working too damn hard, and give yourself a bit of a break, have a bit of fun, and we will see you all for the next one. But for now, thank you all, and hope you all have a good night.